Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
With his gang nearly annihilated, James trusted only the Ford brothers, Charlie and Robert. Although Charlie had been out on rage with James, Bob Ford was an eager new recruit. He's like, he's my bro, man. We got him. For protection, James asked the Ford brothers to move in with him.
You ever seen the movie
What movie?
with Brad Pitt?
Yes.
They portray Robert Ford as like obsessed with
Right.
Jesse and shit.
Yeah,
Weird.
Crazy. James had often stayed with their sister, Martha Bolton, and according to the rumor, he was smitten with her. By that very time, Bob Ford had conducted secret negotiations with Missouri Governor Thomas Crittenden, planning to bring in the famous outlaw.
Yep.
Idiot.
Well, Critton had made capture of the James brothers his top priority. In his inaugural address, he declared that no political motives could be allowed to keep them from justice. Barred by law from offering a large reward, he had turned to the railroad and express corporations to put up a $5,000 bounty for the delivery of each of them and an additional $5,000 for the conviction of either of them.
Oh, beautiful.
It's $10,000, baby.
3rd of April, 1882. After eating breakfast, the Fords and the Jameses went to the living room before traveling to Platte City for a robbery. From the newspaper, James had just learned that gang member Dick Little,
Something like that. Things little.
Dick Little had confessed to participate in Wood Heights murder.
Dick Little.
He was suspicious that the Fords had not told him about it. Robert Ford later said he believed that James had realized they were there to betray him. Instead of confronting them, James walked across the living room and laid his revolvers on a sofa. Uh-oh.
He turned around and noticed a dusty pitcher above the mantel and stood on a chair to clean it because like he's ever done that.
Right.
Robert Ford then drew his weapon and shot the unarmed Jesse just below the right ear, and Jesse toppled to the floor dead.
Oh, wow.
James's 2 previous bullet wounds and a partially missing middle finger served to positively identify the body. The death of Jesse became a national sensation. The Fords made no attempt to hide their role. Robert wired the governor to claim his reward, and crowds pressed into the little house in St. Joseph to see the dead bandit.
Holy shit.
Can you imagine that? Just going in your house that's not even yours?
Dude, just freaking shot him in the back. Wow. Robert Ford killed James for 2 reasons. The first was that Ford had killed a man named Wood Height in January of 1882.
Right.
When word of the shooting resulted in Ford's arrest, he informed the officers that he had access to much wanted Jesse James. He had to. In a deal made secretly with Governor Crittenden, the governor promised Ford a pardon for the Height murder if he would kill Jesse James. Wow. There was also a $10,000 reward on Jesse's head that Ford hoped to collect.
Yeah.
Well, he hoped.
Well, the Ford brothers surrendered to the authorities and were dismayed to be charged with first-degree murder. In the course of a single day, the Ford brothers were indicted, pled guilty, were sentenced to death by hanging, and were granted a full pardon by governor. That's a hell of emotions right there.
Kidding.
They were granted a full pardon.
Wow.
The governor's quick pardon suggested he knew the brothers intended to kill James rather than capture him.
Wow.
The implication that the chief executive of Missouri conspired to kill a private citizen startled the public and added to James's notoriety.
Oh my goodness, dude! What a way to go out.
Right.
It usually happens that way too. And he didn't even trust these guys, but yet,
Supposedly the only ones he did trust.
jeez, after receiving a small portion of the reward, the Fords fled Missouri. I bet they did. Sheriff James Timberlake and Marshal Henry Craig, who were law enforcement officials active in the plan, they were awarded the majority of the bounty.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Later, the Ford brothers starred in a touring stage show in which they reenacted the shooting. Why would you want to react to such a cowardly shooting?
Well,
Night after night, Robert Ford retold his story, carefully omitting that he had shot James in the back.
Right.
But this charade was short-lived, as he was greeted with catcalls, jeers, hoots, and challenges. Public opinion was divided between those against the Fords for murdering Jesse and those of the opinion that it had been time for the outlaw to be stopped.
I can see it.
Right.
Well, suffering from tuberculosis, which was then incurable, and a morphine addiction, Charlie Ford committed suicide May 6, 1888 in Richmond, Missouri. Bob Ford operated a tent saloon
1884.
What did I say? 64? 1884. Bob Ford operated a tent saloon in Creede, Colorado. On June 8, 1892, Edward O'Kelly went to Creede, loaded a double-barrel shotgun, entered Ford's saloon, and said, "Hello, Bob," before shooting Ford in the throat, killing him instantly.
Shit, with a shotgun?
Yeah.
Dude, I almost probably took his freaking head off.
O'Kelly was sentenced to life in prison, but his sentence was subsequently commuted because of a 7,000 signature petition in favor of his release, as well as a medical condition. The governor of Colorado then pardoned him on October 3rd, 1902.
Wow, I didn't know you got out of jail just by having a petition getting signed by people.
Well, back then you did.
I want to try that. Well, I'm not going to try. After his death, Jesse was packed on ice, taken by train to Kearney, where he was displayed and viewed by hundreds of friends, admirers, and curiosity seekers. James' original grave was on his family property, but he was later moved to a cemetery in Kearney. The original footstone is still there, although the family has replaced the headstone. James' mother, Zerelda Samuel, wrote the following epitaph for him, and it says this: "In loving memory of my beloved son, murdered by a traitor and coward whose name is not worthy to appear here." I know they used to do that. Put the names of the murderers on the headstones. I don't ever understood that.
Shot down by
Right.
Travis Carter.
Right. So stupid.
Well, meanwhile, James's widow, Zerelda, she died alone and in poverty.
Oh, no.
During their 15-year crime spree, the James Younger gang committed 26 holdups, making off with more than $200,000, killed at least 17 men. October 4th, 1882, Frank James surrendered to Missouri Governor Thomas Crittenden. The 39-year-old bandit marched into the governor's office and took off his gun belt, placing it before Crittenden and saying, "Governor, I want to hand over to you that which no living man except myself has been permitted to touch since 1861.
Oh, wow.
Frank was tired of the outlaw life. He was tired of being hunted for over 20 years, living in a saddle, and knowing no peace.
Shit.
Oh, good for you, bud.
Well, the public exhibited universal sympathy for Frank and his family. After several long trials, Frank was acquitted on all accounts, returning home to James' farm. Look at that. He took up several peaceful pursuits, working as a horse trainer. He also as a racetrack starter.
All right.
Yeah. Jesse's mother, Zerelda, allowed tourists to view her son's grave for 25 cents and sold rocks from his grave. Legend said that she restocked from the river when the rock supply ran low.
Who's going to know?
Right. She also gave paid tours of the farm shortly after Jesse's death, a practice continued by Frank in later years. Wow.
Later, when Zerelda could no longer live alone, her son's body was moved to the Mount Olivet Cemetery in Kearney, placed next to his wife on July 29, 1902.
Oh, wow.
Frank James was present at the reburial of his brother. In 1903, Frank appeared in a small Wild West show with his friend Cole Younger, who had been released from prison in 1901.
Look at that shit.
He got sentenced to life, too. Wow.
Yeah.
February 10th, 1911, Zerelda Samuel, after visiting Frank and Annie at their home in Oklahoma, suffered a heart attack on the train back to Kearney at the age of 86.
Damn, 86, been 1911. That's
Right.
pretty damn good.
Well, she is buried at the Mount Olivet Cemetery next to sons Jesse and Archie, husband Reuben, and daughter-in-law Z. At age 72, Frank died from natural causes at the James farm February 18th, 1915.
Wow.
His wife, Annie Ralston James, spent her widowhood at the farm.